Okay, I wanted to do a video update today on how the orchids that I got in my trade were doing since I repot them. So right down here, we have a bunch that I put into semi-hydro. So here's one. It looks okay. Doesn't look bad. Doesn't look like it's doing spectacular, just about average. Then I have another one right here. It also looks, it's like growing. So to make things easier, I have a whole bunch sitting underneath my shelf here that I can water all together. They're all alive. So all the stuff that I put into semi-hydro is still alive. And then I have over here some of those little plugs that I stuffed back into moss. So the reason I decided to do this video is I actually was looking at this yesterday and realized that the one that was in this one was dead, and I already went ahead and plucked it out and put it in my compost. But this right here is also dead, or it's dying. See, it's brown right there. So these two plugs, which were not doing so great, they were Marcella Kloss plugs, and they're both dead, but this one's okay. It's still a little wrinkly. This one right here, the leaf is filled out, so it's not as wrinkly. And the other one that I have right here also look pretty good. So probably those two were pretty weak, and now they're gone. So that's those guys. Trying to think what else I had put into stuff. And then this was the Oncidium Shari Baby. The new growth is doing all right. Some of the old stuff is dying. I'm probably gonna have to clean it up. This guy that I put into bark, because I already have it, the Yen Corona Green Genie, seems like it's doing all right. So that is how these guys are doing 10 days after I potted them up, and they came in trade. So I don't know if people remember me talking about this Pseudophidenia nitrata that I got from gnats last year. A few weeks ago, I showed that it had put out 4 spikes. You can see right here, it still has 4 spikes, but one of them has died right here. So this one's like dead. So during one of my What's Blooming updates, I think I pointed out and said that I didn't know why the ends of it had turned pink. I think pink means it was dying. So you can see right here, this end is also dead, but the buds on the rest of it did come out. And so now I know, like, oh, you can even see right here, see where the end is on that? It's dead. Right, that end is also dead. And I'm not quite sure how I killed the ends on it. I don't know if it's because I sprayed it with water and the ends died, or it got too cold in my growing area and the ends died. This is my first year growing this. So I'm only gonna have like maybe 1 spike's worth of flowers, since out of 4 spikes, 1 spike is dead, and then 2 of them sort of truncated because all of these flowers didn't actually make it. But I can't wait till it blooms. It's taken about 3 weeks to get to this stage. This is turning into a bunch of short clips on how things are generally growing. Wanted to note that my catasetums have started waking up. They've been awake since about the beginning of April, and I'm just starting to water them again. So like this one right here, you can see it has roots. This is a Fred Carcara After Dark Sunset Valley. I bought it not in bloom from Orchids by Hausermans, and I've been trying to grow it up big enough to get to bloom. I'm hoping maybe this year will be the year that it does. But it has roots, and I just started watering it again. Other things that are growing pretty well, like this Cattleya walkeriana has put out a new growth. And then I wanted to show in my fogging area this Cattleya purpurata schilleriana seedling. So I got like 4 of these in trade about 2 years ago. And I think this is the only one left. It's the only one I could find. And it has just reached, so they came like they just deflasked them and the leaves were about like this big. So this leaf has just reached like the length of my finger. It's a purpurata cross, so I'm guessing it's still many years from blooming. It doesn't look great. It takes a really long time for me to grow up seedlings. So it's nice to look at the progress. And yeah, I think that's the only one out of all the seedlings that I got that's still alive. So, you know, my success rate, not so awesome there. Right down here, I had a community pot of Cattleya guttata that I broke up, and here is one little piece that's still left. I had a community pot that I'd made of them, but those pieces have all since died. But I also have, I'm pretty sure this right here. See, everything I have is really, really crowded. This right here with the bigger leaves. I had like, I think maybe 2 community pots that I made. Yeah, so this is also guttata, Cattleya guttata, a community pot that I made. Not everything, as you can tell, survived in it. So you can see there's some, oh, the leaves, they're so hard to see. But see this, there's a big one in there. I can probably very soon break up that community pot and turn those into individual plants. And when I broke up that community pot, I did have one guttata that was big enough. Let me see if I can bring it out. I mounted it. I wanted to test mounting versus putting things into community pots, into moss or into bark. So I should note that the stuff I put in semi-hydro from that community pot are all dead. Yeah, they're all dead. They died like that very summer. But this one, which is like the biggest, you can see it's much bigger than those other plants that I showed you, is my mounted one. And I'm hopeful that maybe this year, this one now 2 years after it came out of community pot, this might be large enough to bloom. It's got some very nice new growths coming out, and it's doing particularly well this spring because, of course, we're all trapped at home with the stay-at-home orders, and so I have been very good about misting it every day with my water bottle. So, you know, 2 years to like maybe my first bloom out of community pot. I actually don't know how big guttata needs to be before it blooms, so hey, who knows if it really is close to blooming. Here's that vanilla that I put on a vine right here. It's not dead yet. That's a good sign, I guess. Whoops, let me try to get back into this little glass jar. But then, of course, neither is the vine that I cut that had no leaves on it either, though this part's turning more yellow now. Orchids are so very, very slow. For example, I started seedlings 10 days ago, tomatoes and stuff for the garden, and look at how big they are. They're gigantic. I even had to thin the tomatoes already. Here's a pea. All right, so I'm pretty proud of these because all the seeds that were in this container were 10 years old. Like this pea, like I did plant like 24 peas in these pots, and I've only had 2 actually sprout. But hey, still alive, and that's I think pretty impressive for 10-year-old seeds. And then finally, my Dendrobium aggregatum, which I think I showed was in spike at one point. It currently has 4 spikes, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm hoping it will be in bloom soon and I'll be able to share those blooms with everybody. All right, something else I want to show off. This is Habenaria regnieri. I think I remember the name correctly. This was a corm given to me by Joel last fall, and it's one of his award-winning plants. And it died, and then I thought it was like really, really dead. And then Joel's like, "Oh, dig it out of the moss and make sure the corm is there." And so I dug it out and I found no corm. And I was like, "No, Joel, it's just dead. It's dead, dead, dead. You gave me another dead Habenaria." And so at some point, it was downstairs because I was like letting it cool off and go get a winter rest and not disturbing it. And the cats knocked it off. It was sitting on top of my terrarium. The cats knocked off and the tag came out. And I thought, hey, that's just a pot with some moss in it. It has no plants. So I threw the tag away. And then I left the pot because I'm really bad about cleaning up my stuff. I mean, you can see I just have plants everywhere. And so I just basically brought the pot upstairs with just the moss in it, no tag, and I just sat it here. And I had not cleaned it out and thrown it in the compost. It was good I did it because like last week, this little thing grew out of it. So apparently I don't know how to find a corm in moss because I thought there was nothing in there except a hole. But quite clearly there was a corm in here, and thank God I hadn't composted it because it's alive. But now I don't know what the awarded name for this regnieri is because I threw away the tag after the cats knocked it over. So there's your story of I'm a sloppy mess, and that saved me a plant, but I'm also a sloppy mess, and I don't know what the awarded name for that plant is anymore. And I guess I'll ask Joel, but he's got a lot of Habenarias, and I don't think he's gonna remember to tell me. Okay, I wanted to come around the front here and just show a little root porn because, you know, one of the things I don't often get to see is really good root growth because I forget to water because I'm at work. But again, quarantine means that we can be at home. It's not really like quarantine, it's to leave, get food, but it's easy to remember that we're basically stuck at home. But I can't really get around to the front because, look, here's a cat blocking my path. Oh, and here's a hole in the floor because I still haven't had the rotting foundation fixed here since, you know, people can't come in my house and do work because that would be less than 6 feet. So let's see, roots, look at that. Look at this root growth of my Dendrobium wazellii. So I mounted this. I've been having a lot of trouble growing this. I started with it in moss, thinking it needed to be more moist, but it just kind of died in it. I have another piece of this in semi-hydroponics, and it's okay. It doesn't actually grow in the semi-hydroponics. It's actually kind of just growing over the top of the container. But I guess it keeps it moist enough. So I tried to do this mounted with a little bit of moss, and you can tell that it really does not like the moss. So it's like sticking itself out of it, and you know, the roots are just kind of in the air. I'm sure that the only reason that there's part of it in the moss is because I tied it to the moss, and this part right here is gonna bloom. So wazellii, kind of difficult to get it to cling to anything. It just kind of wants to grow loose and free. Now down here we have some really gorgeous looking roots. This is my Leopoldi, my land date. I believe that I traded for this like 8 years ago with Susan. And then I didn't grow it very well, and it pretty much almost died. And I said, I'm gonna put it in on a mount, take it out of semi-hydro. And it has put out some really nice roots, but I know for sure that this growing green root, looking like, well, sexy as all roots can be, is new since I started staying home. So did all that root growth in the last 6 weeks. And I have a bunch of other stuff that has put out new growth. It is spring, new growth time, but the biggest thing that I see with all my mounts is that since I am home more, right, they're all getting watered and they're all looking much, much nicer. Look at this here. This is my stippled sunset. And this is a Cerulean Clandier that I haven't killed, and I'm watering it, and it's got some nice roots down here. Not seeing new growth out of it yet, but hopefully soon. So yeah, that is some root updates, my mount updates, just general growing updates. And hopefully I'll be able to look back at this in a few years and see what a great job I was doing during the quarantine.